Shalom and welcome to the weekend edition of the Daily Dose of Hebrew. We're starting a new chapter today, chapter 6. You may recall chapter 5, where the Lord brought his long and scathing indictment against his people. For his stubborn people refused to listen to him and preferred to go their own way. And the Lord warned them, but now the judgment is coming in a very illustrative way here in chapter 6, especially the first few verses as we see the destroyer, the Babylonians, arriving. Let's go ahead and read this verse in Hebrew as we get started. Ha'izu b'nei Binyamin mikerev Yerushalayim uvitkoa tika'u shofar ve'al beit hakerem sa'u mes et ki ra'a nishkafa mitzafon v'sheber gadol. Well, we start with ha'izu. Now, what do we have over here? Well, this is going to be an imperative. So it's going to be with the u, it's a formative on it. It's going to be A2MP. And this one here is a hifil, and it's from a hollow verb, ooze, like this, with a shurek in the middle, and voila, there's Zion, and ooze. And this, in the hifil, this has the sense of, in the Kal it means to seek refuge. In the hifil, it has the sense of bringing into safety, to move toward a place of refuge. So this would be come to safety, seek refuge, O sons of Benjamin. Here, sons of Benjamin. And this is in the construct state, obviously. Now, remember, Benjamin is a little bit north of Jerusalem, and a number of commentators have reminded us that north of Jerusalem is this little village called Anatoth. And if you remember the book of Jeremiah from the beginning, Jeremiah, even though he's a priest from the tribe of Levi, his family lives in Anatoth in the area of Benjamin. So sons of Benjamin, this might include the area where Jeremiah grew up in his village to the north of Jerusalem. But those people have probably fled as the army comes from the north, the Babylonian army comes from the north. They've probably fled into Jerusalem. But now he tells them, seek refuge, flee for safety, O sons of Benjamin, from, here's your min, with the nun assimilated into the dagish there, kerev, which is in the construct state here, but means the inside, from the interior of Jerusalem. So flee from the interior. In other words, don't stay in the city. That's not going to be a good idea. Well, where should you go? Well, he's going to say here, and in, there's your preposition, Tekoa. Tekoa. Now, that may sound familiar to you because that is the city. It's a city actually about 5 miles south of Jerusalem, and it's a city that's well known for another prophet before Jeremiah. It would be the prophet Amos. He was from Tekoa, this town south of Jerusalem. And then watch what happens here. And he says, and in Tekoa, sound tik-u. Now, if you notice here, Tekoa, tiku-u. So there's definitely a wordplay going on here. This is the name of the city, and this is a verb, which is an imperative. It's an imperative, 2MP. This one is just a Kal from taka, from these three consonants here, with just the us formative here. So this is an imperative 2MP. And that means to blow or to sound the trumpet, in which case here it's going to be the shofar, so it's the ram's horn. So this is an alarm. So he says, in Tekoa, sound the ram's horn. So way down south already, they're putting up a cry of alarm because the enemy is coming from the north, and Jerusalem is not where you want to be. Head south, and even then it's going to be tricky. And upon Beth Hakerem, literally we have the house of the vineyard, but this is probably a proper name, the name of a village. Some think that it's a village about halfway between Jerusalem and then 5 miles south where you have Tekoa over here, so maybe somewhere along the way. And in Beth Hakerem, lift up, this is another imperative, this is a 2MP imperative, this time from the verb nasa, but you see that nun at the beginning drops off. So you just have sa'u, lift up, and what are you going to lift up? Amas et. Well, this is a noun. This means something which is lifted up. You can see this is another play on words. Like you had up here a play on words. Here you actually have a verb with a noun that's formed from the same verb. Lift up. something uplifted, with probably a signal. And in this context here, it might be a smoke or a fire signal to be calling the people toward it, and also warning them of the incoming danger that's on its way. So lift up a signal. Why should they do this? Because there's our explanatory clause. Evil, now this may be more in the sense of a calamity or a disaster, not necessarily moral evil, because this is something God himself is sending. So calamity might be a good word. Disaster is nishkafa. Well, what do we have with this one? Well, this time we have a perfect. It's going to be a perfect 3FS, and it's a nifal from the verb shafkaf, like that. And we'll put it in parentheses because it's basically only found in the nifal and a little bit in the hifil as well. And shakaf, this has the idea of to lean over and look out, to overhang, to be standing like up on a wall someplace and be peering out. And that's the concept that we have with it here. And a calamity is peering out from the north. Here's your mean, and safon means the north. So it may be from the far north, it may be from Jerusalem, looking down as if the city of Jerusalem were already taken, so to speak, in its imagery, and peering toward the south, and the calamity is rolling over the land. So you have this idea of something leaning over toward the south, and it's from the north, but looking out toward the south. The calamity is certainly coming. And destruction or breaking, it's shattering. This is a word having to do with something that shatters, and a great shattering. So this evil, this calamity, and a great shattering are on their way, coming from the north, rolling toward the south. And it's time for the people to move and be seeking refuge someplace. Wow, pretty dramatic imagery here. Let's go ahead and hide our work and look at just a couple of translations very quickly. First of all, New American Standard, pretty straightforward. There's not a lot of variation in most of our major translations. Flee for safety from Aizu, find security. O sons of Benjamin, from the midst of Jerusalem. Don't stay in the fortified city because it's going to fall. Now blow a trumpet in Tekoa. Blow the ram's horn in Tekoa. You can't see the play on words, but most translations can't put that up, but it's very definitely there in the Hebrew. Blow a trumpet in Tekoa and raise a signal. Well, they keep signal as in sort of a generic sense there, over Beth Hakerem, right here. For evil, now they've kept a pretty straightforward word. Evil looks down from the north, and a great destruction. Just a little bit different when you look at the Christian Standard Bible. They've developed it a little bit more. Run for cover out of Jerusalem, Benjamites, or Benjaminites. Sound the ram's horn. Well, there they got the shofar more directly. Sound the ram's horn in Tekoa. Raise a smoke signal. So that's the way they're interpreting this, which is quite possible. It's not the only possibility, but that would make good sense in this context. Raise a smoke signal over Beth Hakerem for disaster, which is probably a better word for ra'ah here rather than simply evil. Disaster threatens. That's a little bit weak from looking down, but I guess it has the idea of looking down in what sense? In a very threatening sense, obviously, from the north, even a crushing blow, a great crushing, a great shattering here. Evil is coming. The Lord had been warning his people for a long, long time, and now that the wheels of his judgment are starting to turn, it's going to come. Jeremiah has more to say in the following verses. So check back with us soon as we continue working through this text in the weekend edition of the Daily Dose of Hebrew. Shalom.